If all of you are all set, better drummer Travis Barker or Zach Hill? I don't know who the hell that question's for, but maybe it's something we could talk about later. All right, I'm going to get the formal intro out of the way. Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. We're about to embark on an exclusive interview. These two artists, they showed you with Below the Heavens. They proved it to you once again with Give Me My Flowers. And then they showed you one more time that they were miles ahead of their competition with Miles. It's Blu and Exile. Thanks for coming through, guys.
Peace. How y'all doing? How y'all doing?
Thank you for having me.
I'm good. Well, I'm very happy that you guys came through. I'm hyped for this conversation. I have a lot of questions I want to ask you. Looks like people in chat are hype. Okay. I have a lot of things I want to ask, but honestly, like I have one thing that really since the review has just been kind of like burning my brain. I gotta know what's your favorite color of these shits? What's your favorite color on these things? What is the favorite color? Tell me what is
the blue Skittle.
The blue Skittle in the light blue pack. I don't have.
Yeah.
Well, wait. There's a blue one in this one. There's a dark blue in this one.
They have a blue.
There's a blue one. There's a light blue pack, but this is the wild berry one, and this has a blue one in it.
The best one really is the OG red Skittle.
That is. I think a lot of people favor this one. It's true. This is honestly my favorite, though. This is my favorite, and there is a blue one in this one, but my favorite one out of this is the pink, is the strawberry one.
But the red Skittle is blue until you open it up, then it turns
okay.
red.
I didn't know about those psychedelic qualities. Well, there you go. Thank you. I was.
You did see. You didn't understand the line. That's why.
Thank you. I
Now you love the line.
I know. I'm just breaking balls. I'm sorry. I had to. Hey,
it's all good.
All right. So listen. You guys are obviously one of the most celebrated pairings in the underground for well over a decade now. It's been almost 15 years, since you guys came out with your first record together. What would you say at this point, keeps bringing you both together, even though since, that first record, your careers have kind of diverged in different directions. You've put out, your share of solo material, collaborated with other artists along the way. But, again, what kind of keeps it to the point where you guys are continually crossing paths again and again and again, no matter sort of what frame of mind or where you are in your creative trajectory?
I think we both share like a genuine love for hip hop and just a love for being able to contribute. And we just love contributing, and we don't.
It's like it's between a mutual friendship, you know what I mean? Mainly, which is like, if you're friends and you're both creative, you know what I mean? We're going to get down. You know what I'm saying? We're going to drop something. We're going to produce something. But it's that, and also the demand. You know what I mean? There's a demand out there for us. You know what I mean? Not that we're like, we're dropping a tape every 6 months, B&E. But there's a demand out there for us too. You know what I mean? So we're trying to fulfill that as well.
And conquering goals and creating new ones for ourselves, and being able to meet people we've always looked up to, and then figuring out, like how else can we, reach people that we looked up to or emulate them, or even just do it in our own way. It's just fun. It's our childhood dream.
I mean, generally, as you guys do come together for project after project, I mean, with so many years being in between each project and each project really kind of having its own personality, is the act and the sensation of reconvening, is that more like, I don't know, putting on a familiar pair of shoes that you've kind of broken in, and it's just like you kind of go back into it instantly? Or is like the creative dynamic different each time and you almost have to like kind of build it once more from the ground up?
I would say both, bro, off the top, easily. You know what I mean? What you think, X?
Wait, what's the question?
I guess again, sort of like coming back together for another project each time that you've been able to come back together, you know, is it kind of just like, you know, like a beaten trail that you've walked down before, or is it, you know, kind of having to like reinvent the wheel again every time you do it?
We had different things that we wanted to accomplish through our music, and we can't always do those things with each other, like the Exile Radio instrumental album, or him working with all the cats from like Low End Theory, that, you know, the whole LA movement. Like, he needed to do that, and it's like we did what we had to do. But we know how special our albums are, and we always got to come back and do those albums. I feel like now, at least for myself, and as far as the conversations we've been having lately, and just where the world's at, I feel like we want to start putting out music at a more consistent rate than we did in the past. So,
like, kind of kicking off this decade with that. I mean, are we you know, talking about like a Blu and Exile project every couple of years at this point, maybe?
We're like 11 songs into our next album right now, and we've made even more than that, actually.
Yeah,
we've made a whole gang of new songs, and we can't wait to release some new stuff. So yeah.
I do want to ask you some questions about that, but I guess
And I'm also helping Blu with other projects that he's working on that will come out this year.
Yes,
I've been executive producing, and with he's working with a Dirty Science artist named Surplus. I've been helping with that, and
shout out to Surplus.
And he's been getting on joints with other cats that I've been working with and whatnot as well. So
okay, I mean, I definitely want to ask you guys some questions about the new stuff, but before we do, talking about I guess the significance and importance that, you know, you're feeling in regards to your own music. You know, what was it like, I guess, kind of dealing with the weight of that on this new project, or this latest project, you know, on Miles? I mean, did that drive you guys to come out with this massive statement that you did, where not only are you handing over listeners like 90 minutes of music, but lyrically Blu is going into such like an autobiographical mode, and like intersecting all of these lines between his own life and politics, the world at large, and music and art?
I think, yeah, we definitely did feel we had to really come with it and really put out our best work. And we made so much music. You know, Blu he just wants to get it out there and get it heard. You know, I wasn't necessarily wanting to release that many songs, but then I just was like, all right, Blu, this is what you want. Let's do it. I'm down. Like, you know, the trend has been to put out less music and, you know, but, you know, space it out. But if you want to say, fuck it, and just drop all these songs against the grain, I'm fucking with it, because why not?
Yeah, so. I mean, like, I guess I guess one question I had going into this was like, what, you know, was the point at which the levee broke and the decision was made, like, this is not going to be a normal sized record, and we're just going to have to go the distance with this thing?
I had to let the miles had to sit in, you know what I mean? And then it was like, I was just telling X all the time, we got to go that extra mile. We got to go that extra mile. You know what I mean? I was just bugging him about it. You know what I mean? Eventually we got 20 up there.
You know, yeah. I mean, he was trying to communicate the miles and the experiences of his life, I think, in one long view, maybe, so to speak, and boom, in one scope of an album.
You know?
I guess, you know, this question is for Blu then. Like, at what point, you know, the album does tie up nicely, but I mean, obviously the record isn't an entire telling of, you know, everything that's ever happened to you. So, you know, but considering how far you did dive on this LP, at what point did you actually feel like, okay, I'm done, or like I've said everything that I could say, or I feel like I need to say to the audience?
It was a lot. It was quite a few different points in the record where we could have been finished with the record. You know what I mean? And X just had so much heat, and I had so many different visions for like songs train tracking each other that it just all came together. They started adding on, and then I was like, X, we got to go that extra mile. We got to drop all these songs. You know what I mean? We can't, you know.
But at the same time, I would definitely just keep hitting them like, yo, let's try to do a song like this too, you know, because I like to have them overworked so we can really pick the cream of the crop. And so he just kept on making cream, you know, pause or whatever. But yeah. And so everything was just good enough to just drop. And we didn't, you know, there was just too much good shit. And I don't think he wanted to just divvy it up. He just wanted, you know, it was made for this. Let's just drop it.
You know?
He definitely like, we write out track listings as we go, and they're like this evolving track listing and orders of songs. And he like really imprints them in his brain. And I have to really fight to like change the order of the album, or like, yo, we got to put this song in, and, you know, and that's another scope of, you know, when you eventually we agree and it's like, okay, that's it, and it's done.
I mean, considering that was kind of the process, like what does the cutting room floor of this record even look like? Was there a lot left over from this LP?
Yep, there was like about 40 songs, 40 plus songs. So we got about half of the songs up for the record, you know what I mean? Which is a lot. Below the Heavens, we cut 75 songs and put, you know, 15 songs up there. You know what I mean?
And considering that you guys have kind of jumped back into the process of, you know, working on your new stuff, did that involve, I guess, you know, completely pushing some of the leftover stuff aside and trying to find a way to reset in order to get into a new creative headspace for this new batch of tracks? Or are you guys moving in like a similar direction, trying to, I guess, achieve different ambitions with the next record?
As we create this new stuff, Blu still has other ideas for the old stuff that, you know, we're trying to agree upon, you know. But the new stuff is new stuff.
Oh yeah.
Just like a bit of a, I guess, a music nerd question that I think would be interesting to know, just, you know, on account of your close proximity, just like his friends and his artists who are, you know, constant collaborators over the years. And, you know, considering how much jazz comes up as a topic on this LP, like generally between the two of you, would you say that your jazz tastes, you know, just like fans of the genre individually, like pretty much align, or are there like certain genres or styles that one of you gravitates to, you know, that the other doesn't?
I would say X has more experimental, more mature, like 70s jazz, more progressive jazz.
Like progressive fusion type shit.
That too, but
yeah, I'm more bebop, classic, old school, dusty jazz.
he likes to study like all the legends, like the icons, you know. And I think you know, I collect more obscure stuff.
Oh yeah.
But he's definitely like, you know, he reads all the autobiographies and goes in on it, you know?
Yeah, but obviously, as both of you know, one of the interesting things about, you know, Miles Davis is that his discography expands like so many, you know, expands upon so many of those different styles and tastes and sounds, and, you know, forge new ideas in some of those, you know, genres himself. Are there certain records in his discography that you guys disagree on personally, or like, you know, favorites of one but not so much the other?
I think I'm more into the early stuff, and X is more into the later stuff.
Yeah, when Miles started getting funky with like Bitches Brew and stuff like that, that's the type of stuff I'm into.
Yeah, I like Birth of the Cool, like before his.
And you know, as we're like talking about like you know, the Bitches Brew era, how far past that are we going? Like, are we going to On the Corner, and we're going to like, you know, are we going into like the more new agey, like spacious experimental like 80s shit, or do we like pretty much stop at the 70s?
Yeah, more. Yeah, just I mean, I'm more into the stuff before the '80s for sure.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, just curious as to, you know, whether or not that's sort of like a topic of discussion between you guys. But
Somebody asked Anthony. Somebody asked on Twitter what was my favorite Miles Davis album. I wanted to tell him this. I thought it would be a good time to say it. It's Blue Haze. You know, ironically, you know what I mean. Imagine that. But Blue Haze is super butter. It's my favorite Miles
and
album.
it's not it's kind of an underrated one as well. Are there any other records in his catalog that, you know, you guys personally feel like doesn't get enough shine? I mean, obviously, like, you know, Birth of the Cool and, you know, Bitches Brew are pretty popular records, but he's got a pretty massive discography and a pretty massive catalog. Are there, you know, any others that you feel like are sort of overlooked generally?
Nah, he got love for like everything he put out. I felt like, you know what I mean? Like his stuff with Coltrane was, you know what I mean, before or no, that was the early I forgot. But his stuff with Coltrane, like Steaming, Working, was it Smoking? All those were like, you know what I mean? No, wait, Smoking wasn't one. Steaming, it was Steaming, Working, Relaxing. Walking wasn't with Coltrane though. There was one more, I forgot, but those four were dope. And they were done like all in the same session, but they became 4 different albums, you know what I mean? Same couple sessions.
The next question, I have a couple of, you know, questions for each of you specifically. I wanted to ask Blu if he could get a little bit into, you know, as somebody who's followed your career for a while and has taken, you know, interest in a lot of your catalog over the years, if you'd be able to, I guess in a way retrospectively go over a little bit, and you do rap about some of this stuff on, you know, the new record, but like, you know, there was kind of that period around like early 2010s, almost like, you know, around like, you know, the No York era, if you could call it that, where you were putting out like a lot of lo-fi releases as well. And obviously like the rollout of that record originally didn't like go as planned. And then there was almost like that point where you put out Good to Be Home, and it seemed almost like your output schedule kind of like hit a stride again. And then your stuff, you know, began to come out with more consistently in a way. You know, like, would you be able to go into a little bit kind of like what exactly slowed things down at that point, or if there were any kind of like personal struggles or, you know, like issues with just like music industry stuff in general that you were kind of going through at that point that, you know, might have impacted like your trajectory, that, you know, maybe plans that you had for the early 2010s in terms of like building your sound and developing new albums that maybe didn't come to fruition?
Yeah, like the deal with Warner Brothers not going down, I had to come to reality, you know, come to grips with reality, you know, based on that. Also, I went to jail in the like 2010s, you know what I mean? That like messed me up when I got out. Like records had been released already under my name, you know what I mean? So it was like a constant flow, even though I wasn't there particularly the whole time. You know what I mean? But yeah, after that it was more so I did slow down personally. You know what I mean? I'm not as hungry as I used to be, you know what I mean? I would say I'm more so like more matured with what I release now, you know what I mean? But yeah, it definitely slowed up for a little bit.
And I mean, as of this point, now, though, I mean, at least as like kind of an outside observer, it seems like you're back kind of on like, you know, a consistency, a pattern, like you have like a flow going again in terms of like what you're putting out, and each project kind of having its own personality and everything. Would you agree that you're kind of back on the footing that you want to be?
Yeah, I'm sitting on a lot of records as well. I'm sitting on about 5 albums, you know what I mean? Which is a lot. I'm usually like dropping the album that I'm working on, or I'm never really sitting on as many albums as I am. I may be sitting on like two albums, you know what I mean? Maybe 3 max, you know, like a album I produced on the side, you know. Actually, yeah, I'm sitting on like 6 albums because I got a record I produced as well I'm sitting on. But yeah, it's basically pacing these releases out, not just throwing them out there, not just like, you know what I mean? Like saying this is my worth, like, you know, take it now. I'm thinking I could just space it out and give it to people in a timely manner. You know what I mean? Give them time to digest everything.
Thank you for going into that. It was something I was curious about. Exile, I wanted to ask you, as someone who, like Blu, has, as a music fan and a musician, you know, certainly remembers a time like pre-internet, you know, sort of like everything being so digital and being so online. And now we've sort of fast forwarded to this point where everything is just so saturated on the internet. Everything's available at the click of a button, and there's just so much information sharing about everything. And I've been seeing a lot of articles cropping up lately about just this phenomenon of, I guess, unintentional sample snitching in a way, where, you know, fans will convene about any number of beats and producers that they're fans of, and like, you know, be calling out the samples and the origins of whatever and this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, obviously it's all just out of the passion of the music, but there are some copyright holders and labels that are like, you know, looking at that and almost in kind of a vulturistic kind of way, like, oh, okay, now we know where the samples are. We know where it's coming from, you know, and it's not being picked up by this or that algorithm, but the fans are finding it. You know, do you find that because the internet kind of uncovers the shadows of everything, that makes your creative process a little more difficult, or you have to rethink certain things that you want to do in terms of like applying certain samples or using certain pieces of music because it might get called out, it might get found out, or you have to be a bit more stringent, or, you know, I guess, you know, careful about dotting your I's and crossing your T's when you do put out a record, just to make sure like everything that you're, you know, sampling and using is above board?
I may just try to chop it up more, but I really don't let any of that stop my creative process. I'm just trying to make the best stuff I can make. Really just stuff that I want to hear and stuff that is fun for me to make. Of course, there's going to be some stuff that I avoid, and also have been working with catalogs with people that I have a relationship with and whatnot. But for the most part, I don't let that interfere with how I make my music.
Okay. I'm going to try to, you know, work in a few viewer questions here. We have some coming in, and there have a lot of people who have been excited to ask you guys some stuff. We have one from Wolven Jack 101 who wants to know, how did you guys first meet? And, you know, what was sort of the creative process like when you first started collaborating?
Me and Aloe Black had a group called Melon, and we were working with this crew that Blu was also friends with, and they were talking about trying to start a label with Melon, Blu, and with Miguel. We kept hearing about them. Aloe had met Blu first, and everybody's just telling me about this cat Blu. This was probably like 2002 or 2003, and Aloe had took me to go see a show, and we went in there, and Blu was just young and fresh and just killing the stage, and with the homie Koss was up there.
Donnell Smokes.
Donnell Smokes.
Shout out to Donnell Smokes.
Miguel. You know, they're just up there having fun on stage, and I was like, okay, yeah, I want to work with this cat. And at the time I was working with Sound and Color, and I was working on like my album with different artists and whatnot. And Blu had got off stage, and I'm like, I want to get you on this album. And he had already been a fan of the Eminem work, and so yeah, we just went to the studio, recorded our first song, and I remember after we recorded it and I was taking him home, we just started talking about what we wanted our album to sound like.
Off top, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For me, it was like working with like a legend. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I bumped into High Tech, bro. You know what I mean? You know? And I remember High Tech called the homie Miguel. Me and Miguel had a demo in high school, and High Tech flew out Miguel for the demo we had. And Miguel called me from High Tech's spot and was like, yo, they gotta take off your verse and put Mos Def on there. That was high school, you know what I mean? But like, you know, later on, I was like, what, 21? No, I was 20 or 19,
19.
Even, huh?
Yeah.
And damn, I was, no, 03.
I think it was 2002 because we were already working in 03.
Yeah, exactly. What? That's deep, bro. I was like 19 and shit. But yeah, it was like working with a legend, bro. You know what I mean? Like I said, bumping into High Tech, and then even that, it was like, you know, if we did an album, it'll be like, you know what I mean, some like Pete Rock shit. You know what I'm saying? Premiere shit, bro. Like this dude had the cuts, everything. You know what I'm saying? It was like a total package. It wasn't like a beat tape. You know what I'm saying? That just came up. You know what I mean? It was like years of experience and work. Man, it was an honor, bro, off top for me.
You know, it's funny that you bring up Eminem because somebody was asking specifically about that. Icknock Studios wants to know if there's a chance of a revival at some point.
Well, we did a album in 2016, but it was just kind of under the radar. But yeah, we have another album we're working on right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. But yes, indeed.
Okay. Let me see. I think this would be interesting, you know, knowing just like how long that both of you guys have been doing what you've been doing. But someone here is asking if there are any, I guess what you would say like just new generation. Doesn't have to necessarily be like the youngest dude, but in terms of like guys who are coming up now in the underground or even the mainstream, considering how much like the sound of everything has changed since, you know, when you guys really hit it in 2007. Is there anybody recently in the past couple of years that's like really impressive to you that you think they're coming out with great records? You think they're kind of like the new sound, the new wave, or somebody who, you know, is kind of that stripe that you might be interested in working with too?
Somebody new? Man, shout out to King Choosy, man. He killing everybody.
Man, questions like this, I always blank out when I think about it. But
I'm kind of like, you know, I'm getting into more like, I think Joey Badass is like the illest of the kid, not the kids, but the younger generation. You know what I mean? Of MCs. Joey Badass is probably my favorite one.
Joey Badass, Vince Staples, Earl, you know.
Earl, you know, just to throw it out there, what do you guys think of almost like this? I don't even know what to label it. I mean, it's certainly like a wave, it's a thing, but you know, there's this like really predominant, I guess, passion amongst a lot of fans for artists like, obviously like Earl Sweatshirt, Mike, Makami, Pink Sifu. These guys, you know, these guys whose style and delivery is just super introspective, super wavy, super low key. And, you know, rather than jumping out at you, it's more something that I feel like is trying to pull you in a very cerebral way. I mean, is that anything that I guess like kind of translates for you guys or, you know, sticks out to you?
He covered some ground similarly in New York.
For sure.
You know,
For sure.
Yeah, kind of like.
I had a band in New York, like a New York band. So like even some of our live shows were different from the album that actually came out. Not completely different, but it sounded different, and it was like an energy, a total experience. You know what I mean? But I'm not discrediting like Pink Seafood for nothing. You know what I mean? Especially on the rock tip. Everybody else, I know Pharoah's on the rock tip too, but he's a super OG. You know what I mean? That 13 album is my favorite so far right now, 2021.
Wanted to also ask you guys, you know, considering also how you were saying earlier, how many records like you're sitting on right now and the music that you're working on at the moment and are planning, you know, to release in the future, has the popularity of like streaming and almost like the de-emphasis on, you know, just like physical releases, vinyl CDs and the like, you know, over the years, caused you guys to, I guess, sort of like rethink how exactly you release your stuff or when you release your stuff or how much you put out? Because as you were saying earlier, you know, it seems like almost like the route to go or the pressure is to, you know, put out a record that's maybe mid-sized or something, maybe even 20 minutes or so, and just like, I don't know, put that out at like a jogger's pace where it's like every 6 months or every year or something like that. You know,
The pace is definitely different. I mean, I come from the era, like when I started this, making tapes as an 18-year-old, standing out in front of clubs and just trying to hustle it to cats. I would do like a mixtape on the other side of music they knew, and then I'd have me and Aloe's music on the B-side, and I'd go up to like, I don't know, AC Alone or somebody and hand them a tape. And like that, this was pre-internet, and that tape kind of like, back then, you know, instead of going viral, it was like your tape would get dubbed for this cat and this cat, and you'd have like this tape, and only certain people had the tape, but it would actually go viral through dubbing, you know. You know, and yeah, definitely now the pace is different, and we're definitely thinking about that now. Like we're still doing the same process of like how we make a gang of songs, but I think we are now talking about how to pace that out more. I think we're talking about maybe doing that, or just dropping another long ass album, you know. But I mean, it is in our minds, because to do it differently, because in reality, like we could have just chopped that album up into like, I don't know, maybe even like 4 releases and just kind of paced it out. But we just like the idea of it being heard and felt as a solid piece, you know. So if we can figure out a way to make smaller
adventures,
increments of our creative process of the album we're working on now, if we can figure that out, then we'll do it differently. So that is to say, yes, it is on our minds.
I got a few questions here about this, and feel free to, you know, pass over this if this is not of interest. But there were a few people asking if with Blu, if there's any kind of like beef with Evidence and Alchemist that people aren't fully aware of or anything, or if that's water under the bridge at this point.
The beef is done, man. We didn't even have a beef. I was just bugging out at the time. I was going through some drama in my life, and I kind of, you know, lashed out on the wrong people. You know what I mean? And me and Ev, man, we got a new song out called Soul Custody. You know what I mean? Which is kind of like a reunion of like, you know what I mean, the old energy we was building like back on like For Whom the Bells Toll, when the therapy joint with Kid Cudi, and you know what I mean, different joints we done did. Yeah, but Peep Soul Custody by Static Selector. You know what I mean? That's
shout out to Evan Alchemist.
Yep. Uncle Al.
Jimmy Bob James wants to know, the end has been an amazing end to the album, but it ironically puts me back to the present considering today's events. Have any of today's events and politics impacted how you were making the album? And have any of the recent changes in terms of like politics or social stuff, or you know, the ongoing pandemic stuff, impacted how you see that track and the album overall now?
Man, that shit is scary. Scary fuck, bro. Yeah, I definitely want to say it's not the end. You know what I mean? I know it feels like it, but it, you know, this is not the end. You know.
Creatively, I guess, really, just on a personal level, would you say you're more of an optimist than a pessimist?
Definitely.
And I.
Yeah, like my vision, bro. You know what I mean? Imagine that to a pessimist, bro.
And I guess you know, what are some other things that I guess, and this is something that you were that you were bringing up earlier in terms of like how you release your music and you perceive your music. I mean, what other things about your style and your perception do you feel like have changed since you've aged over the years? You know, and you've become, you know, not just like this young dude rapping, but a grown adult who has these major responsibilities in his life. You know, how do you feel like that impacts, you know, the things that you want to write about and the things that you want to say when you go into a record?
Music helps me like vent, like just transfer that energy. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like hip hop is the fountain of youth. You know what I mean? It like keeps you young. It keeps your spirit like fresh. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think hip hop keeps me feeling youthful. You know?
Yeah, it's also an opportunity to even things out with the music that's out and the messages that are being spread, and like what we can say to infiltrate the listener's ears. You know, I think that responsibility, I mean, it just depends on who you are. Maybe it's not a responsibility, but I'm definitely conscious of it. And with concepts that I may even, you know, offer Blu or whatnot, and like what ultimately comes out. But
don't get it confused. We got crazy street bangers though, bro. You know what I mean? Crazy street bangers for the heads.
You know, that does make me think though, because with it now being 2021, I mean, hip hop has aged another decade. And, you know, it was only a little while ago before there was, you know, kind of like these widespread discussions about, oh, rap is like 40 now, it's 40. And it seems like as things draw on, it's almost like the generational divides, you know, between like what it was based on, what the new generation is doing, is it have kind of changed so wildly. It's like it's becoming greater and greater, that divide. You know, do you guys feel like the animosity that's sort of like forged in a lot of that is just sort of like a natural occurrence, or, you know, to be avoided or unnecessary? You know, is it like the old heads and the new fans who want to do their own thing, do they have more in common than they think that they do? And, you know, the fighting is just kind of pointless?
I think they definitely have more in common than they think they do. And I think the old heads that create a problem only make it worse, and that's why the divide is created in the first place. You know, you should welcome them and work with them, you know. But I mean, the only animosity I would ever have is the loss of style per where the music is being released, you know. Like I don't like the idea of a sound blanketing out a genre. Like, the differences is what made hip hop special, and it's really strange. You know, I think the internet is part of the problem, because people see what's hot, you see the likes, you know what's popular. So you're like, okay, well, I'm going to try to make something like that. So that in turn makes people creating the same music, or makes radio stations play that music that is hot, instead of, you know, like New York isn't like really playing a New York sound anymore. And I think, you know, there's definitely a discussion of how that contributed to the death of like the true New York sound. But definitely thankful for Griselda and Joey Badass, you know, keeping that alive and still even touching on progressive sounds at the same time, I think. But, you know, as long as there's groups like Blu and Exile and, you know, Joey Badass and Griselda and whatnot, you know, then we'll even out the playing field. And I think that's an important thing to do. And yeah.
To dig deeper into that, do you feel like things generally over the course of time that you guys have been making music has become like more homogenized? That like everybody's just really kind of doing a carbon copy of the same thing across the board in a way?
There's a lot of that, but then, you know, stuff like Pink Seafood comes out, or Joey Badass, and changes that. And I like that happens, because it still gives you that underground, more like mysteriousness of what I used to like pre-internet. Like, I loved getting like underground tapes that, you know, I didn't even have the artwork, and I had to imagine what these people looked like. And the mystery of music is something that I miss. I don't know where I was going with that point, but that's definitely like, yeah, something that I miss, the mystery of music. And,
you know, I just to offer like a counterpoint, I mean, I would say that, I mean, I think personally there is a lot of versatility out there right now, but it's just not regional anymore. Because as you were saying, like, you could find people making trap music literally not even just like across the country, but across the world right now. You know, but the thing is, like, if you are going to find anything different, you're not going to find it because you've hopped in your car or like on a plane and traveled to a different place. You're going to find it because you've gone onto some like weird subreddit or something, or like, you know, some Bandcamp, or like, you know, gotten some obscure recommendation from someone, like, you know, through some other platform.
Yeah, you got to be a real music fan, you know. And I think it would just be nice if the playing field was leveled out, so we'd be able to reach the ears of kids who don't know what they necessarily like yet, and they allow Instagram and algorithms to dictate it for them. And that's part of what we're fighting against. What I'd like to think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, it seems almost like we've reached a point where it's just become almost like a different gatekeeper. Maybe at some point you guys probably remember it being a time when maybe that gatekeeper was a music magazine or some kind of publication or whatever. And now it seems like it's, you know, become streaming platform X, Y, or Z. And I don't know. I mean, personally, from your perspective as an artist who's been doing it across, you know, those two eras, like, you know, which struggle is harder? You know, which one are you finding it harder to kind of break into?
Well, there's just so many artists, so many people doing it, that it makes these people not want to take risks to break records anymore, because shit, they'll get fired, or who knows? I don't know. It just makes it tougher. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
It is a gang of artists. I don't know. I would say it's, you know what I mean? You could go either way with it. You could, you know, you could say it's like tougher now, but, you know, get crucified for saying it was, you know what I mean? It was easier back in the days, but I would rather come up back in the days. You know what I mean? It was more like, I felt like it seemed like more rewarding. You know what I mean? Even though I know it was tough. You know what I'm saying?
And, you know, in terms of it, like, being rewarding, what rewards do you feel like, you know, you were shooting for then that maybe are not available now?
We just really just make what we want to make, and we try to enjoy the process as much as possible. And we always seem to reach the rewards, you know, like being on stage in LA for the Blu and Exile 10-year anniversary, and the line being wrapped around the block, and us playing with a live band, and Miguel joining us on stage, and just that feeling of being there. Or like releasing Ecology with Fashion and Blu and our whole crew being up there on stage, and Nas walks on stage to greet our homie. Like, that was like one of the best moments of our lives. And I'm just I know there's going to be more moments like that, and more rewards. So in a sense, yeah, I don't even worry about it, and just continue to do exactly what we want to do, and know that more moments like that are going to come.
You know, as a artist who obviously have been disheartened by the fact that the pandemic has kind of shut down everything in terms of like live performances, and with that being like a key moneymaker for a lot of musicians out there. Recent news of the vaccines and everything, does that give you any hope of kind of like shows being around the corner or something, or maybe being able to take advantage of some kind of outside performance or something over the course of the summer?
I'm definitely hopeful. I see it coming, and I'm looking forward to it.
Blue?
Touring is the best, man.
Yeah, I want to tour so bad, bro, but I can't rush it. You know what I mean? I gotta have my own microphone up there. I gotta make sure I'm ready and loaded.
Yeah, I think
Forming a mask and shit. You know what I'm saying?
under these conditions we can't be sharing microphones.
Yeah, definitely.
Has this impacted either of your creative processes in any way? I mean, obviously, you two are working in close proximity together now, but as you kind of separately work on your own projects as well.
I think it's helped it because I just, locked down. What am I going to do but be creative? And I've definitely output a lot of creativity this year.
Live shows kind of helps, you know what I mean? Like mold, like the cadence of you know what I mean? The style you're trying to put out there. Live shows helps like mold your whole presentation in a way, you know what I mean? So it feels like it's a big hit for me, but definitely grinding more on the pen, you know what I mean? Recording more, you know what I'm saying? Doing what we can do, you know what I'm saying?
That's interesting and encouraging to hear, because generally, I mean, at least, with people that I've talked to, behind the scenes and otherwise, like the general sentiment has been like, I'm going to take advantage of this. This is going to be amazing. This is exactly what I want. I've been dying for time to just concentrate on X, Y, or Z. And then as it sort of like becomes the 5th month, everyone's just like devastated, and no one's writing anything, and no one's getting anything done. And it's interesting to hear that you guys have been able to consistently just like get things finished and stay creative over the course of all of this.
For sure.
Having said that, I have a few, questions over here from creatives in the audience. Considering how long you guys have been doing this, I'm sure you have some perspective on this, but over the course of this past year and otherwise, when you do hit sort of like a point of, I don't know, writer's block or whatever it is you're doing, it doesn't sound good. And I don't know, you can't get through a verse, you can't get through a line, you can't get through a beat or something because just nothing is up to par. Like, what exactly do you do personally to kind of break past, that wall and like get back into a space where you can actually get something done or, reset?
Try something new, you know what I mean? Try to do something like you don't normally do. Try to try to get out of that box somehow. But you can fight through it. For me, when I put the pen down, it's harder to pick it back up. You know what I mean? So I kind of stay with the pen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, I go on bike rides. I rode my bike all the way to Blu's house, but he wasn't home.
Yeah.
From LA to Pedro, but long bike rides, shit, jump in the ocean, stuff like that.
Anything to kind of reset it?
I jump in the ocean year round, even in the winter.
Okay. And anything to like reset essentially?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think back fresh and ready. Or, yeah. Just listening to new music until you get inspired to get back in there.
All right, before we head out, aside from like the new stuff that you guys have been cooking up in the studio, is there anything else that either of you have been working on that might be dropping, soon or this year that we should be, on the lookout for, that you want to tease or, just give us a heads up on?
Yep, look out for that Blu and Surplus, yo. We're gonna drop a little project on the folks. Blu and Surplus. We got an EP about to drop.
Working on some new Eminem stuff. Got some records with Choosy, with Dag Savage. Shout out to Ahmad Anwar. Me and him been working. New artist to look out for coming up pretty soon. Working on Exile Radio Part 2. So yeah.
Blu, some of the records that you're sitting on, like anything that you have that you're cooking up that is almost like on a, you know, kind of a conceptual thing, like you know, a long red hot Los Angeles summer night was?
Yes, my next LP is going to be a conceptual album, but it's more so in terms of the production, more so than the lyricism. You know what I mean? And like storytelling. But that's going to be a surprise. I'm gonna wait to hit y'all with that after this Surplus release.
Okay, all right. So different production direction on that one. All right. Well, look, again, I appreciate your time and appreciate you guys coming through and having a conversation with me. And obviously I and everyone here love the Miles record, and we're looking forward to, you know, what you guys put out next. And just want to thank you again for coming through.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having us.
All right, you guys have a good one.